I am Joelle. Welcome to my channel. I don't know how to say that. And I have been reading How She Died and How I Lived by Mary Crockett. And this is not a book for everyone in the sense that it's very dark, very deep, very real. I was drawn to it by how it said it could have been any of us. And in life, we probably take a lot of things for granted. So I wanted to kind of take a chance and read a book that would probably show me how a lot of people experience life and the type of loss that they sometimes go through. With that said, the story takes place in a small town in Virginia. Our main character, who is not named, so there is no name for the main character, so I'll just be saying she is the main character, or our main character. She is one of 5 girls. I got a text message from a guy named Kyle, and Kyle's plan was to lure one of the 5 girls to a secluded area where he would take advantage of them and where he would end their life and steal their car. We don't really get an in-depth reason other than that on why he did what he did. We'll never know. And I think that is such an important thing in this book that we didn't get an in-depth insight on. That's sometimes the most conclusive thing that sometimes families get in these situations is whatever the person said. And you don't really get a clear answer on why this would happen to someone you love. And our main character, we just get to see her point of view of it and her experience after something like that would happen, and understanding that she was in the middle of texting him and responding to saying yes. And her then boyfriend was the reason why she didn't, and the only reason she wasn't the girl chosen for this. So she has an incredible amount of survivor's remorse and is absolutely terrified of life, feels like she should have been the one that died instead of the girl that did, who was Jamie. And Jamie was like this girl loved by everybody, super sweet. They were all in high school, so befriended everybody. Our main character tries to befriend Jamie's boyfriend, Charlie. And mainly their friendship is based off of both of them going through something that I hope no one ever really has to go through, and sadly they do. I really loved the experiences that they had together because they kept pulling each other out of the darkness, and it was such a hard topic for them to talk about, but they did, and they kept digging each other out of feeling so lost and so sad. Like, this is why I feel like this book is so important. They say things to each other that people need to hear when they go through these things. You never really know what to say to someone when you have a loss like that, or when they go through something that could have been the most traumatic thing in their life. And this book does an incredible job of talking about what goes on in people's minds and what they experience and what they want people to say to them or don't say to them. And our main character is just, this whole book is feeling like she should have been that girl. And she is devastated that someone else who could have lived a way better life than she has had a chance to live. She feels like she took that away from her, and it breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart so much that this actually happens to people. So within this story, you get, the typical high school drama, a little bit of romance as well. They try to get on with their lives, and I really enjoyed the parts where it is a bit of a normal experience for teenagers. Like they keep trying to live normal lives, and I enjoy that because that is a part of healing and recovering from such a situation, is just trying to get back to normal. So the 4 girls that also got the text messages are like a group of friends. Like, they try to stay in contact with each other, they try to be supportive. It is so important not to isolate yourselves in situations like this, and this book does an amazing job of talking about that and how to help in those kind of situations. So a couple key things that happened in the book was when she befriends Charlie, and they start having they start taking a liking to each other pretty much, and they're very confused about it, and they don't know if that's okay. And that just hurt. Like, it hurt so bad to think that with the chemistry that they did have, it ended up working. They needed each other. I feel like in this story it worked incredibly, and the couple's dynamic that they ended up having was what they both needed, was what they both had to have in order to cope and to recover from the situation. So I won't go too deep into that, because if you read it, you'll understand and you'll see it. There's a lot of cliches with the romantic parts, which is fine, because I felt like, for me, like, it's not the biggest part of the story that's being told. It's just a lot of the filler and a lot of the things that people in life go through. Not everything needs to be incredibly exciting, especially when it's a book about this. The boring parts I enjoyed because of how intense a lot of the book was. We experienced people being taken advantage of in a couple different ways. And I love when the book points out that it is not the person who was being taken advantage of fault. Like, it is never your fault, ever. And in this book, when it comes to Jamie and the main character both experiencing stuff like that, it's incredibly important to read on those points and to understand that people will be mean, people will be cruel, but you don't have to be, and you don't have to be okay with accepting those situations for what they are. So probably like the mystery part of this whole book was when the 4 girls all get a letter, and it is said, like, all of the letters say the same thing, but they all get little different gifts depending on, like, the main character got flowers, somebody else got candy, I don't remember what other people got, but they all got something, and they all got the same letter saying it's not your fault, or it was not your fault. And nobody, like, they didn't know who it was from. They were kind of freaked out about it. It ended up being Kyle's grandmother, so the antagonist's grandmother, who sent that to them. And that's as deep as it goes. You don't really know much else about that, which is fine. But it was just like a little add-on in the story of how terrified they were. Like, they all thought it was Kyle, and that he was messaging them, or that he was trying to reach out to them and find a way to contact them, but it ended up being the grandmother just trying to do the one nice thing she could for them, which was tell them it wasn't their fault. I think it's incredibly important also to point out that our main character went through trauma, and this entire experience, she's trying to understand why she's alive and why she wasn't the one that had her life taken away. Why does she get a chance to live when someone else doesn't? How to cope, how to be in a relationship with the person that was in a relationship with that person. She experiences her mom being terrified of her going on dates, bring your pepper spray, learn self-defense, all these things that, like, as a parent, I'm absolutely terrified of that situation for my child. And I hope it never happens. But to know that your child, like in the book, to know that her child was this close for that happening to her, I felt it. Like, I felt every chapter that her mom was concerned. It's just sometimes a reality for people. Gosh, it's just such a tough book to read if you aren't okay with reading about the reality of certain situations for some people. Our main character, like at the end, they have this thing similar to like a polar plunge, you know, when it's January 1st and people jump into cold water. It's similar to that, but it's for their seniors in high school, like as a party. I don't know how to describe that. But they go, like, they strip down into their swimsuits and they jump in the water. And as she's jumping in the water, she felt alive and she felt proud of herself. She felt like this was a life worth living. And an amazingly conclusive end of this book was her being okay that she was alive. Yeah, there isn't a whole lot to really break down of this story. It's a very straightforward experience that you will have, which is something terrible happens and this person has to live with that, but she doesn't know how to live with that. She doesn't know how to experience life and be happy when she knows that, or when she feels like she should have been the person that died. You feel it emotionally and you feel it personally. Because at any point in any time of day, something could happen to us, whether it's an accident or whether it's on purpose. And that is the reality that is shown in this book, is in an instant, something can happen to any of us. I highly recommend it if you have the emotional capacity to handle a book like this. There are a lot of cliches in the general part of the book. So if you're okay with that, it's not that big of a book. It's just like that big. Like, that's my finger. That's how big it is. I finished this in like a week and a half, but I'm a crazy reader, so maybe that's me. I recommend it. I recommend it for understanding trauma. I recommend it for understanding people who have been taken advantage of, people who have experienced loss in a certain way, specifically like this. I recommend it just for knowing how other people sometimes live their lives and what goes on in their head and their experiences. That's basically what I have to say about this book. I don't want to say I enjoyed reading it, but I enjoyed learning about it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so awkward. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Joelle, and yeah.